Okay, welcome everybody. I make it 7:30 here in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, so welcome to you all wherever you are. My name is Professor Tim Campbell. I'm a visiting Professor of International Management at the University of Northampton, and I also look after this Middle East and Africa DBA program locally here in the region. So it is my pleasure tonight to be able to take you through the program. So what I'll do is I'll spend about 20 minutes just giving a presentation just about various parts of the program and sort of highlights of the program, if you like, from my perspective, being so closely involved with it. And then after that 20 minutes, what I'll do is I'll answer any questions that you have. And it's great to see a good group of you here tonight as well. So welcome to you all. Let's get cracking then. So before I talk about the program, I'm going to just spend a couple of slides just giving you a bit of background information. And the first question that probably comes to your mind is, where is the University of Northampton? Well, it is indeed in the town of Northampton in England, which my big arrow is pointing to there. Northampton is a very old historic town. It's about, I suppose it's about 100 kilometers north of London. It takes about an hour in the train. A very old historic town. In fact, I was just reading in the news today that they've just uncovered another Roman settlement in Northamptonshire, in the county there. So it dates back to well before Roman times and appears in various parts of English history. But anyway, in that town, you would find the University of Northampton, and it actually used to be just on the outside of the town and just in the country. But they built a brand new campus that opened in 2018, and it's now right in the middle of town. And it really is an impressive campus, very technologically advanced. And in fact, if I go back to my first slide, there's another view of part of it there. So it's a big, lovely campus that they've got there right in the middle of the town. And on that campus, there's one building there called the Senate. And on one of the floors of the Senate is actually the postgraduate student space, which I've taken a photo of there. That's just a part of it. It goes on that whole floor. But if as a student, as a DBA student, if ever you are in the university, on the campus, there's a space you can use for as long as you like there. The University of Northampton itself, you will, I'm sure, go onto the website and find out all about it. So I'm just going to say very briefly that education in Northampton dates back to about the 13th century, so a very long time, but the modern University of Northampton's origins begin about 100 years ago to where it is today, with about 14,000 students and 1,500 staff around that. So it's a fairly sizable sort of a place. But as I say, do go onto the university's website and find out all about it, because what I really want to focus on tonight is telling you all about this DBA program. So firstly, the first question I usually get when talking about the DBA, the Doctor of Business Administration, is, well, what is a doctorate? Well, a doctorate is usually, or rather it's often called a terminal degree, which means it's the highest degree that you can attain. So there are exceptions to that. There are degrees such as postdoctorate certificates and things, but generally speaking, it goes, you do your master's, you do your bachelor's, then you do your master's, and then at the top there, your last degree is your doctorate degree. And there's two types of doctorate degrees. One type we call professional doctorates, and they're for people who study at doctoral level, but they're primarily involved in a profession. So for example, if you're ill and you go and see your doctor, that doctor will usually have a professional doctorate. They'll have an MD, Doctor of Medicine. There's also professional doctorates for engineers. You can do a Doctorate of Engineering. Pharmacists can do a Doctorate of Pharmacy. Education people can do a Doctorate of Education. And in just about every profession, there's one of these professional doctorates for people within that profession who primarily want to stay within that profession. And of course, for business and management people, the professional doctorate is a Doctorate of Business Administration. And then the other broad type of doctorate we have is a research doctorate. And these are for people who are primarily engaged in research. and universities and places like that. And the most common one you'll see is the PhD. So we have these two types of doctorates, but PhDs in business and management and DBAs are exactly academically equivalent. They're on the English scale, on English university scale, they're both level 8, so they're exactly the same level, and they're actually quite similar. They're both research-based degrees, but the difference is, and I'll sort of go back to this as I go through my presentation, is that a DBA must have a practical application. So although on both a PhD in business management, or if you do a DBA, both of them are basically big research projects, the DBA must have a practical outcome. Whereas a PhD could be purely theoretical. You could just come up with a new theory and that would be enough. But DBAs need to be more applied and practical. Importantly as well, once you've finished your doctoral journey, your DBA journey, or if you finished a PhD journey, you would be able to use the title doctor. Just one more slide on this, because I think it's important, and it's a bit wordy, this slide, but I think it's worth me just reading through it, because I think it just nicely makes the distinction between PhDs and DBAs. And this is simply from allbusinessschools.com is where I found it. So at the top it says, PhD programs in business focus intensively on preparing candidates to conduct highly specialized scholarly research. They focus on the development of new theory in management, economics, and related fields. Most PhD and business administration graduates lead to careers as university researchers and professors, or as senior researchers in business or government. And then it goes on to say, DBA, Doctor of Business Administration programs, focus on the application of theory rather than on the development of new theory. So the DBA, by virtue of its focus on the application of theory, has more practical application in managerial settings than a PhD. So I think it makes the distinction nicely. People who do DBAs would generally see themselves as staying within industry. And those who do PhD, you'll find more so in universities and research institutes. But that distinction is not absolutely cut and dry. I've worked with plenty of people at universities who have DBAs, and I've known plenty of people in industry who have PhDs. But it's just a nice way to think about the difference. Generally speaking, the DBA will be for people who are primarily engaged in industry, the PhD, those who primarily want to be universities and researchers. Okay, that's enough about that. That's the difference between the two. The next question is, well, what do DBA people, what sort of things do they study? And for this one, it can be absolutely, to do a DBA, you can do absolutely anything business and management. So it could be finance, accounting, HRM, corporate social responsibility, business ethics. It could be artificial intelligence and how that's being used in a business setting. It could be, of course, strategy, marketing, anything business and management related. And these topics here are just ones that our students are doing. Some are finished and some are still current students. And I've picked them in no particular order just to show what the different types of things that people are doing. And so things like a critical examination of a performance management system, leadership styles and employee performance, an assessment of corporate governance in the public sector, assessing the value chain in a manufacturing business, reasons for investing in high-tech startups, resolving project conflicts, agile project management. And one of my students who finished a while back now looked at knowledge transfer and management training settings. So you can see there's a whole different range of topics, isn't there? All related to business management, but all different types of topics, from operations and logistics to entrepreneurship and innovation and all different types of things. So that's all the different types of things you could do. Looking now at how you're actually taught on the DBA program, first thing I would say, the next intake is intake 13, which starts the very first workshops on the 25th to 28th of May. That's when it starts, not when applications need to be in. They need to be in significantly before that, and I'll speak about that later, because it takes quite a long time to get through the application process. But anyway, that's when it starts. Firstly, it's intake 13, so we've already had 12 intakes in the Middle East and Africa intakes, and we have 2 a year, so you'll see it's been going for 6 years now, very successfully. And what you do in the first 2 years is you learn everything you need to know about research and research methods. So you study these 6 modules. It takes 2 years, so they're about 3 months apart. The first module is 4 days, principles of research. Then the next 4 are all 3 days. So the first ones are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then 2 to 5 are all Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then the last one's also a 4-day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And during those face-to-face elements, you are face-to-face with your tutor. We used to teach it. The professors used to fly from Northampton to here in the UAE and teach them, but of course, because of COVID, we can't do that, unfortunately. So the modules are still taught in exactly the same way, but your tutors use a virtual classroom now. So they're still live, you're still interacting with the professors during these days. Just the difference is we use a specialized virtual classroom software to do that. So I suppose on the plus side, it means you don't have to travel here to the UAE. You can be doing it from wherever you are at the moment. But anyway, so you have these taught workshops, 3 or 4 days, and then you'll be working with your tutor until working on assessment and all different types of things until you hand in your assignments and you move on to your next workshop. So that first 2 years, the first stage rather, is 2 years long, and you learn with your teachers all about research methods. Then the second 2 years is when you do your thesis. And there you have a director of studies, you have a first supervisor, you have a second supervisor who take you through actually doing the research project. So that's how it's structured, what we call a 2+2 model. 2 years taught, 2 years thesis. The assessment types that are used in these modules, they're all various types depending on the module. It might be an essay, a seminar presentation and debate, a portfolio, research report, or all of these other different things you see on my slide here. And one of them, you also do a practice viva voce, which is how your actual thesis is examined. So you do a practice in that first 2 years. So there's no exams, because exams don't really fit at this higher level. You really need to be thinking and researching more into these projects, which is something you can't really do with exams. So they're all some form of an assignment, but it varies depending on the module, and your professor will tell you exactly what they want you to do. Then when you do the thesis and you submit your thesis, that will be 40,000 words long, and you're assessed by a viva voce examination. Viva voce is just Latin, it means an oral examination. So you submit your thesis, it will go to 2 examiners, one within the University of Northampton, one is an external, which means it will be somebody from a different British university, because it's important if you're doing a doctorate at one British university, the standards should be exactly the same as any other British university. So this is followed by any UK university. You have someone in your university and someone at another British university, and they will sit you down and take you through that thesis chapter by chapter. And at the end of that, if it all goes well, you will pass. Oh, just by the way, it used to be again that you need to travel to Northampton, which was the only time you did for the viva voce examination. But again, because of COVID, we're having to do these remotely as well. So that's assessment. There's lots and lots of support for DBAs. You know, doctoral level, don't think of, perhaps you might think back to your master's degree and think, you know, there were 50 people in the class or something like that. At doctorate level, at these higher levels, everything is a lot more personalized in smaller groups. You'll be in, the May group will be somewhere between 10 and 20, and that's about as many as you normally have in a doctorate sort of an intake. And you get a lot of personalized support for these. So you have the international DBA program leader. That's a lady you'll meet at the interview stage, which I'll talk about in a moment. If you go through the application process and you get to the interview, that will be conducted by the international DBA program leader and a subject expert. So you'll meet her. Every module has an expert tutor, senior academics. As I mentioned, once you get to the thesis stage, you have 3 supervisors, the Director of Studies and then 2 first and second supervisor. There's all of the Northampton and all of the university administration, and even locally at Stafford, we can help you find what you need. If you can't find it at the university, we can help you direct you where to go. The virtual learning environment we use is called NILE, the Northampton Integrated Learning Environment. Every module has its own NILE site. This is where the virtual classroom is. It's where the lecturer will post any materials, any readings, anything they think you need to know. It's where you'll submit your assignments, all of this type of thing. And there's an extensive online library with literally millions of resources that we access electronically, the University of Northampton's library. So there's plenty of support on the program. And just one other thing I want to mention as well, that's all specific to the DBA program. But the university itself also has a graduate school, and that is there to help any postgraduate researchers. And this is what they say of themselves. They say it's a university-wide framework for training, support, career preparation, and administration to help you throughout your postgraduate research degree and early research career to achieve your potential. So this whole school is set up completely to help postgraduate researchers. And again, have a look on the website, have a look for the graduate school, and you'll see what they do. But one thing that's particularly useful, I think, for our DBA students, they have an extensive program of online training courses that you can attend for extra support. So perhaps you wanted more information about writing a literature review, you'll find it there, or research ethics. SPSS is what we use to analyze quantitative data and research. If you feel you need a bit more support on that, the graduate school holds training courses. In vivo is used to analyze qualitative data. Again, the same thing. So again, this is remember, you've got all of your DBA support, but then you've also got this extra level of support, the graduate school that does all of these extra things that you can tap into. All of course included as part of the program once you're a student of the university. All right, so lots of support. Let's just get on to some of the fundamental parts, entry requirements, etc. Standard entry requirement, you hold a master's degree in a business-related subject, ideally completed within the last 10 years. But if it was longer than that, as long as you can show you've been doing training courses at work or things to keep your knowledge up to date, that would be okay. We expect you to have a minimum of 5 years work experience, at least some of which should be at a senior level. And all of the people on the program, they are senior levels. And you need to be employed in a leadership and management role capable of supporting the achievement of the program learning outcomes. And that's because a lot of the first 2 years, the assessments will need you to be thinking about your own practitioner role, your own role in your job and your organization. So you need to be in a position, working in a position where you can actually be able to do that. Application requirements, the first few are fairly standard: a CV, a personal statement where you need to write things like, why do you want to study at doctoral level? How will it help you personally? Why do you want to do a DBA and not a PhD? You'd write about how you'll find the time, because it is a big journey, the DBA. It's a very rewarding journey, but it is long, and it does mean you need to balance your work life, your family life, and everything else. So all of this goes in your personal statement. Then you need 2 references, your degree certificates and transcripts, and evidence of English language ability if you're asked. If your master's was in English, then you won't need to do that. So you would only need to do that if you're asked to do so. You also need to write a research proposal, and I'm going to say more about that in a moment. But it's about 1,000 words, and Northampton has a template, a form that you can fill out. You submit all that. The first thing is they'll look at that, the admissions team at the university, they like what they see, they'll invite you to an interview. And then in that interview, as I mentioned before, you'll meet the overall program leader from the university and a subject specialist. So if your proposal is in strategy, there'll be somebody from strategy. If it's from HRM, somebody from HRM. And in that interview, they'll ask you all about your application documents. but they'll particularly ask you about that research proposal, what you're thinking about doing. As I say, let me just tell you a bit more about the proposal. You know, people ask, well, why am I doing a proposal before I'm even on the course? Well, there's three main reasons for it. First, you need to remember it's not a very in-depth proposal. We're not expecting it to be at doctoral level. We're expecting you to show the potential to study, or the applicant is capable of studying at doctoral level. That's the key thing, because you know we don't want to admit people onto the program unless they have every opportunity of succeeding. So we want to see that proposal that this person will be able to cope with those course requirements. Then we also want to see, does the proposed research fit with the nature of a DBA? Remember, I said it has to have some sort of practical outcome. And we'll also look, does the university have an appropriate supervisor? Now, the university can supervise any of the major business and management areas, you know, entrepreneurship, innovation, social responsibility, strategy, HRM, OB, whatever. But if you come up with something very, very niche or very, very specialized, then there's a possibility there won't be a supervisor. So when you write the proposal, just make sure it's broad enough to fit within one of those major business and management areas. And I would say it doesn't often, it's not often a problem that. Don't really find it comes up that too much. Just my last word on a proposal, then what does the Northampton admissions team look for in a proposal? Can it make a practical contribution to business and management? Can the applicant reference? The university uses the Harvard system of referencing. Can they write a brief literature review and cite just some of the authors in the field? And do they have a basic understanding of research methods? Put in bold down the bottom there, all business and management master's graduates should already have those skills. Okay, last few things from me, because I think I've gone over my 20 minutes a bit, but I'm just about there. The program fees, have a look at Stafford Global's website for the current fees, because they can change between intakes, and I want to make sure you're getting the absolutely up-to-date, accurate fees. But when you do look at those, you will see that they are very reasonable for this type of program. Remember, it's not an online program, it's a part-time taught program. We're having to use virtual classrooms at the moment, and we will do throughout your program, but you are still taught face-to-face in real time in these workshops. So why should you do a DBA at Northampton? Because it's an investment in your future, both in academic and professional fields. It's the highest qualification of business and management. You will contribute to business and management practice. It would be expected that your thesis would be published. There's international and local supervision and support, and workshops from leading international faculty. And my final word, completion of the Northampton DBA will set you apart as an expert able to lead and manage at the highest levels. You will have made a unique contribution to your field and developed outstanding analytical, critical, creative, and reflective skills so needed in today's business world. Very few people study at doctoral level. So embarking on this journey and completing this journey really is something special that you'll be proud of for the rest of your lives. So that's the final word from me. Importantly, let's have some questions and let's see what you want to, what I haven't covered. Now, the easiest way to do this, see that question box on your right there. I can see I've got questions already. It's easiest if you type them in there, and then because with a group of us, that means I can see them and get to them one after the other. Okay, so here's a question I've got here. I have been advised that the workshops are currently virtual. What is covered and how important are these to my studies? Yeah, these workshops are crucial. You must attend. Now, of course, if something happened and then you couldn't make half a day or a day, then that's fine. The tutor will help catch you up. But they are so important to the study, and so, you know, that you really need to be at these workshops because they're going to tell you everything you need to know to complete the second 2 years of the degree, which is the thesis stage. So they really are crucial, these workshops, and to be attending. And as we've said, they will be virtual and through the virtual classroom. Next question. I stopped my DBA studies at another university. Can I get exemption to the modules completed if I join your DBA program? No, if you did even do part of the DBA at another university, you would need to start the DBA program again. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, because the modules build on each other. So if you don't start at the start or you get exemptions, then you can have gaps in your knowledge. And the second reason is DBA programs vary between universities. So you might have done something at one university that doesn't really map to the Northampton DBA program. So we do need to start to again on the DBA program. Well, here's an important question. It says, will my degree state online distance learning? Absolutely not. And it's really important to bear that in mind. You know, this is not an online course. It's a part-time taught course. So it will not state online distance learning anywhere. As I say, it's just because of COVID that these workshops are having to be done virtually. Let me see my next question. Oh, this is a long question. I don't have a management degree. However, I have 2 engineering degrees and a degree in arts. Wow, very good. I've been working in a leadership and management position for the last several years. Can I still apply for the DBA? Absolutely, you can apply. You know, it's difficult for me to answer without sort of seeing more information about exactly what you've done there. But certainly, it's never going to hurt to apply, and then you can always see what the admissions team thinks. My next question. I'm a pharmacist. Excellent. You know, I've had a few pharmacists over the years studying on the MBAs and DBAs. And you have an MBA? Excellent. And you're the CEO of a private hospital. Do I recommend me to enroll on the DBA? That sounds like an absolutely perfect degree for you to be enrolling on. You've got the experience, you have the senior leadership position. So absolutely, I think it's the perfect degree for you. Second question, MBA was in 2012. Ah, okay. You said your MBA was in 2012, but you couldn't find a topic for research. Can anyone help? This is, let me give you a bit of advice for when you're thinking about what topics you might be able to do for your DBA. The vast majority of people will do a topic within their own professional domain. So somebody who's a marketer will do something, usually do something in marketing. Someone who's in people management, HRM, that type of thing, will generally do something in that. So think about your own professional practice, something you've been working in, your own work, your own job, your own organization. And then think about what issues do we really face? What big issues do we face in my job? What have I come across? Or what has our organization come across? It's best to start thinking of these things, basing it on your own experiences. Now, you could do something completely unrelated to what you do, but it's quite rare people do that because they just don't feel that fit or that experience that they can bring into their DBA project. So when you're thinking about the topics, most people think about, well, what am I doing? What's an issue in my job? What's an issue in my industry, in my company? What's something that would really solve, what's a bit of research would help solve that? So think about it that way. So, you know, you're saying, can somebody give you a topic? Not really, not in the business of management. It's got to be something that you really think, you know, this is an issue. This is a practical issue that I could help solve. Next question. I have about 27 years industrial experience. Wow, fantastic. Management, etc. An MBA and DBA. Oh, you've done a bit of a DBA. 1 year taught, 3 year research and graduated. Oh, you've done a whole DBA, have you? In exemptions, what's the total modular hour for the entire course? As I said before, we wouldn't be exemptions on the DBA. If you want to do the Northampton DBA, it would be starting from the start because, as I mentioned, it builds on itself when you need to start from the start and the end. So you would have to follow the full program. The total modular hours, I'm not really sure. UK universities don't really, well, they do to an extent, but it's not something that's particularly, that they really use, such as other countries do in terms of modular hours. It's a 4-year course, basically. And the minimum duration of the course, 4 years. I do get this question a bit actually, you know, can I do it a little bit quicker? And but once people are actually on the course, people don't really mention that much anymore because they recognize how involved and how, you know, what the journey is all about. They recognize they need that time. And the first 2 years, of course, the modules are a set time, your assessment dates are a set time, so you can't speed that up. On the thesis stage, technically you could do it faster if you wanted to, but there's really no benefit in doing so. You're best to use your time. From memory, I think the fastest one of our students has done from starting the course to submitting the thesis was 3 years and 10 months. Well, it might have been 3 years and 8 months. Anyway, it was about then, okay? But then bear in mind, he submitted the thesis and then it still takes a few months to go through the examination process. But from start to submitting the thesis, as I say, I think it was either 3 years and 10 months or 3 years and 8 months, something like that. But that's the fastest I've known somebody to do it. You're best to think about using all of those 4 years because the key thing is getting through it successfully. Doing it a few months faster doesn't make too much, you know, I don't think it makes too much difference. You may as well use the time you got. Oh, here's a good question. Oh, and it's a tough one to answer too. I do get it quite a bit. So the question is, how many hours should I study daily? Or how many hours should I, you know, should you give to this type of, will you need for your studies? Before I give you an answer to that, I would say it depends a lot, firstly, on the student. Some students just simply seem to pick things up faster than others. Some students need to just work a bit harder and longer to get things done. It can also depend on the module. Some modules, such as quantitative data analysis or advanced quantitative data analysis, some people have had quite a background in that already. They might, you know, in their jobs, they might use it. They might use some of these techniques. So again, they find things a bit easier and simpler, whereas they find other modules more difficult and take longer. In saying that, when I ask students this, they generally say something like, you know what, I probably spend about 8 hours a week on my studies. So, you know, it's perhaps not as, you know, that's manageable, because the next part of your question is, will it interfere with my work? So it is manageable. The program is designed to be studied around your work and family life. As I say, there's only working people on the course, and all with senior management experience, all with, you know, jobs that take their time and families that take their time, and they do successfully get through it. So, you know, it is manageable. It's been designed with those types of people in mind. Next question. Can a DBA research topic be related to strategy, strategic planning, and leadership? Absolutely. Yep, I've seen plenty of those types of topics come through. Yeah, strategy, strategic planning. I've seen lots about leadership. Yep, no problem at all. As I say, anything business and management related. What I should also mention as well, with when you do your, when you submit your documents and you submit your proposal, so you'll be submitting them to the guys at Stafford. Remember, Stafford is the company that markets and recruits for this program locally. All of the academics, so once you're actually on the program, all of the academics come entirely from the University of Northampton. But at this stage, getting you on the program is the job of Mario and Heldon and all the good people in Brookshire and all the good people at Stafford. But when you submit your documents, they will automatically send me your proposal, your draft. And I look at every draft proposal that's sent in. And I will give you comments and send it back. I'll either say, I think it's okay to be submitted. Of course, I don't know if you're going to be accepted or not. All I can say is I think this has been presented as best it could be. But if I think you've made some major mistakes or the topic just doesn't look quite right, I'll send you feedback, you'll get it back, rework it, and we can have a look at it again. And I think that's the best way to do your proposal, actually. Think of a topic and actually get something down on paper. Follow that form, that University of Northampton form, and just think about, get something on paper, get your ideas fleshed out, and then I can have a look at it and, you know, see what I think about it before you submit it. I think I've done all my questions then. Excellent. If there is something I haven't covered, here's my email address and my contact details. You are, of course, very welcome to contact me anytime. And indeed, if you want some, if you do have a draft of your proposal or even some ideas about what are your proposal, you don't need to submit it to somebody at Stafford first. You're welcome just to send it straight to me. As I say, it'll come to me eventually anyway, but you're welcome just to send me an email and see what I think. And in saying that, I would love to see you on the program in May. Please don't, as I mentioned before, applications close a long way before that date, so you should be working on proposals and things now. Again, the consultant at Stafford will be helping you out at that. Do spend time on your proposal. It's not something that can simply be written overnight. It is a competitive entry. Only about 50% of applicants will be offered a place onto the program, so you do need to be, putting some time into these proposals and really thinking about this application process. But actually getting on the program and succeeding on it, it will be the best thing, one of the best things you've done in your life, I'm sure. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for listening. As I say, any questions at all, just let me know. But for now, have a great evening. Bye for now.